Welcome to the Friday at 4 podcast series with your host Charles Luttrell and co-host Steve Kent.
Steve, good afternoon. Welcome back to the Friday at 4 podcast series. How are you?
All right, doing well. How you doing, Chuck?
It's been a very busy week. I'm tired.
Well, busy is good as long as it's productive or
It
something
is.
like that. Okay.
Yeah, I'm with you. Productive, tired, right?
It's the end of a crazy day. We all get up, well, I shouldn't say all, a lot of us get up early. We put in a long day, going to sleep late. You could do that for a couple days in a row. By the time you get to the end of the week, yeah, we're tired. We're tired.
Catches
Um,
up to you, right? Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
Friday night's one of those that you want to unplug the alarm clock for Saturday morning.
I don't set an alarm clock, believe it or not. I'm a
No,
human alarm clock. I'll wake up on my own. 4 a.m. Boom.
you're better than me. If it
Yeah.
wasn't for that alarm clock, I'd still
Yeah.
be sleeping.
Sometimes 3:30, sometimes 3:45. Yeah, I'm very efficient. And speaking of the word efficiency, that put us right into our topic today. How
All
about we
right.
talk about some overlooked efficiencies in our businesses and what we do to audit? What do you think?
I think that works. It's a good
Yeah,
topic.
yeah, I think so.
Um,
Start us
regardless,
off.
regardless of the business that you're in, again, our opinions, we're just two guys giving you our opinions. Um, but regardless of the business you're in, there are certain things that can be either repeated or automated or something to make the business run faster, more efficiently, more predictable results. So if you're, for example, my daughter, I think I mentioned this before, my daughter works in a restaurant in New York City, and I will not give you the name. I mean, it's a great restaurant, but I'm just using it as an example.
Sure.
They have people that do different functions. They have the cook, they have the person that runs the order to the table to the customer. I mean, they have all kinds of stuff that they do, and they have it set where certain people do a job. They do it well. They do it so often they can probably do it in their sleep, although I wouldn't suggest that.
Yeah.
Although some people looks like, but it's they have that repetition. Because
Yeah.
if somebody who doesn't, if I try to do what you do, Chuck, I'd fall flat on my face because I don't know what you do. But if I do my thing over and over and over, it becomes repetition. I don't even have to think about it because I know it's going to get done the same way every time to the best that I can do it. And
Yeah.
that's what happens in a business. So regardless of what you're doing, segregate out, have different people doing different functions. Now, having said that, though, you still want to cross train people because if I'm the only one that does what I do and I'm on vacation, um, I get sick, I leave the company, whatever the reason, who's going to do my job?
Yeah.
So it makes sense to cross train so that that does not happen. And I know I worked in a number of banks many, many years ago,
Mhm.
in operations, not in the actual, branch. And part of the manager's job was to cross train
Mhm.
specifically for that, vacations and if people leave and all those things, promotions. And so that was that. But that's efficiencies. And it's very important that a business does that because similar to anybody on the staff doing whatever they're doing, what about the owner?
Mhm.
The owner cannot physically be in the shop, store, whatever business 24/7, 365. It's impossible. So
Yep.
even the owner has to find people that they can trust to do the job so that they know what's going to happen every day, every time.
Right. Yep. That's why I like where we're headed with our podcast on the Friday at 4 here, because it's 4
It's
o'clock
4 o'clock
somewhere,
somewhere.
right? I think what I like about where we're headed with this is that we're starting to cross train each other with what we do in our businesses, right? And this is another perfect segue into what we're talking about today. Is my statement to you would be, so what are some of those things that you could, from your standpoint of your business, what are some of the things that are overlooked in these efficiencies, right? So what are some of the things that people overlook when it comes to the insurance field?
I mean, there's a lot of things that people overlook. So, as an individual, so there's the individual side and then there's the licensed professional side. But on the
Mhm.
individual side, are you reviewing your policies every, if not more frequently, at least once a year?
That's a year, right? Yeah.
Because in that 1 year, and again, it could be sooner, is there an addition to the family like a baby?
Mhm.
Is there someone who's no longer in the family, God forbid, a death? Um, does a child get married and go off on their own that should be off your policy so you're not paying for that person? Do you have enough coverage if you buy a new house and you have a policy to cover the mortgage if you pass away and you upscale your house or upsize your house? Does that old policy even cover the new mortgage?
Right. And
So,
before we go further, right, I wanted to just touch base on that point you mentioned. If a child leaves your house, right, that's a great chance for an agent to have an audit with that person and say, hey, do you want to have a policy for this child that has now left your house, correct?
right,
Because it can come off of
correct,
your policy and it can create their own, so that can benefit you and that person, correct?
correct, correct.
Yeah, I just want to touch on that
Correct.
because that's a good
Yeah. Oh, yeah,
point,
yeah,
right?
yeah. Yeah. No,
Yeah.
great point. So again, there's two pieces. So the one piece is the client, the customer, the individual person. What are
Mhm.
they doing to make sure they maintain that coverage?
Yeah.
Then when you flip to the licensed rep side, which is what you just talked about, and you're right on target, it is, in my mind, it is the responsibility, just good practice, if nothing else, to touch base with my client once a year, minimum once a year, that says, hey, Chuck, what's going on? What's new in the world?
Yeah.
New kids, new grandkids, new house, new, if you're on property and casualty, new car. Um, what changed in your life that would cause, God forbid, something happens to make sure that everything is covered? So the
Yeah.
remaining people, the spouse, the kids, the dog, the cat, the goldfish, whoever's left, to be protected. Roof over their
Yeah.
head, food on the table. Yeah,
Yeah. And what word that comes to mind with that, something that everybody really should follow and believe in, but I know it's big in the life insurance industry as well as is in mine. One big word is ethics. Have ethics. Really do the right thing for your clients, no matter what, right?
yep. There are laws that are pretty much across the country. Some states are more strict than others. Um, but there's, and again, being in New York, there's something called suitable and affordable. So I could sit down with Chuck, and this happened to somebody that I know. And again, I'm leaving the name out because we're fighting it right now. He is in his 60s. She's in her 70s. Last year, they met an agent who said to him, you need this coverage. But they did not do the ethical thing. They did not do the right thing by looking into what the person can afford, what their needs and goals are, their time frames. So now this person got a policy 5 months ago that they are unable to pay for the policy. And they're deciding every month, literally, do I put food on the table or pay for the policy? Now they're going to cancel the policy,
Yeah.
but It should never come down to that. So
Will
your
that
point,
create a chargeback?
yes, it will.
Oh, there you
Yes,
go.
it will. So for those who don't know, when you sell a policy, certainly on the life side, because that's my specialty, whatever that first year's premium is for the policy, they will pay agent or agents, depending on where you are in the chain, a full year's worth of that premium. So if a person comes along 6 months later and cancels the policy, the company will now charge that agent the remaining 6 months because they want their money back and they should get it.
Should get it right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It shouldn't come down to that because if you did the right due diligence, if you were ethical, if you did what the law says you're supposed to do, plus what really just kind of should be done, it shouldn't have to come down to the law. But even if you say, all right, got to be law, do what's right. Do
Yeah.
what's right
Now,
by the customer.
can't that agent lose their license or get into a little bit of a trouble, even with the insurance company they work for? Because I know
Yeah.
when I had took that test and I was studying it, there were some things talked about that actual thing that you had said that
Yeah.
if you don't do the right thing for your client, you can get in some hot water.
So if you have a policy that for whatever reason doesn't go the full time and the agent gets charged back, but if you do it again and again and again, there's something called persistency. So it's the percentage of policies that last, I don't know whether it's 1 year or 2 years. So if that persistency, so out of every 100 policies, I believe 70, which is really on the low end, have to remain at least 1 or 2 years. If
Yeah.
they don't, not only will you continue to get charged back, but you could lose your license. And it should
That's
be.
And that's huge in the Medicare department too, because when
Hmm.
you're starting to talking about those, those alternate plans, you sell some elderly person something they don't need, you are in hot
Yeah.
water.
Yeah. Well, there's a couple
Yeah,
of things to consider here. Number one, is the agent really doing what they're supposed to be doing for the
yeah,
client first?
yeah,
Number
absolutely.
two is the insurance company spends a lot of time. People don't realize this. They spend a lot of time and money, paperwork, medical exams, overhead of salaries, rents, utilities, insurance, everything they have to do to issue that policy.
Yeah,
They're not making their money back for a couple of years.
yeah.
So if the agent has those policies that keep lapsing or running off the books 6 months, a year, year and a half, the insurance company is losing a lot of money. They
And
don't
they're
want
going to
that
look
agent
at
anymore.
Yeah, they're gonna look at that guy, right? And be like, so why do you
They
even have
will.
this agent? We don't need this person if they're
Correct.
acting like this. We're gonna get rid of them. And then when that happens, the word gets out, and then before you know it, no company wants to hire you
Yep.
because, well, you're
Yep.
writing fraudulent
Yeah.
policies, right?
Yeah. Your
Yeah,
your reputation does precede you. It's
yeah,
it's a big industry, but it's a very small industry. People
yeah,
know people. And I gotta believe that somewhere out there in some database somewhere is the fact that Steve did not do what he was supposed to do.
yeah,
I gotta believe it's out there somewhere. And
yeah,
it's like you have 100, you ever hear that expression? You could do 99 things right and one thing wrong, and it's the one thing wrong that everybody remembers. It's the
yeah,
same thing with agents.
yeah,
You got to do it right
yeah.
100% of the time.
Yeah. And
You know,
talk about that in the small business industry as a whole, because I can go to McDonald's 10,000 times, and 10,000 times you can treat me like crap, horrible food. I never say anything about it. I can go to your small business 25 times, and you do one thing wrong with a 26th time, and all of a sudden I'm blasted all over social media because, well, you did me wrong. It happens.
it does, and it's unfortunate.
It's very unfortunate. Yeah.
It
I hear it
is.
a lot.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure
Yeah.
you do. I'm sure you
Yeah.
do. So let's go,
Yeah.
what's going on your end? With how do you, you deal with customers all the time in different restaurants and other types of businesses. How does that work with some of those customers or those business owners when it comes to, repeatability and what happens if there is a bad apple? How do they deal with it?
Yeah. I'm dealing with one now. I think we briefly talked about it. We might touch on this more, in the future offline here. But I'm dealing with one now that there was a big health concern
Mm,
in an audit that I did. And I've been trying to reach this person. They're not reaching back out to me.
mm,
Um, this is crucial on my side when we do, and I'll just call it audits because that's what this
mm,
podcast episode is about, the word
mm.
audit. And when I do audit a place, I'm not there to make you look bad. I'm there to help fix what happened. So going forward, you can make your business better,
Mhm.
safer, cleaner, and not infect, 25, 30 people in the process,
Right.
And that's one thing that on my side that I love about what I do is the fact that, we're not catching people doing things wrong. We're catching the things that are you're doing right. So these things that happen that go wrong don't continue to happen,
Got it. Got it.
you know? Yeah. It's a big thing. It's huge because to me, cleanliness is a big thing in
Oh, it
any
is.
business, whether it's a restaurant,
Mhm.
bowling alley, I don't care what your business is. If I walk into the doctor's office and I find tissues on the floor of the lobby, that's a
Mm.
red flag.
Yeah.
I don't care who you are. That's a red flag. Is somebody blowing their nose, throwing it down? What is it, right? So those things
Yeah.
are red flags.
Yeah. Yeah. Part of it is the health issue. Again, in a restaurant, just throwing that
Yeah,
out.
it's
Part of it
huge.
is tissues on the floor, but it's about appearance because
Yeah,
it's not just that there's a tissue on the floor. It's what else is going on
yeah,
beyond the tissue. How clean is it? Do they
yeah,
really care about appearance? And if you're getting into a doctor's office where it needs to be maybe sterile, or a restaurant where you have germs flying around, that first perception goes a long way.
yeah.
And,
So
you know,
I'm gonna give you and our audience a huge tip, and I'm sure people know this, and I'm sure you might know this as well. The one thing I can tell you about any business is how they are is go to their bathroom.
mm,
See their bathroom. If it's dirty, I guarantee you there are probably health issues. You can probably look
mm,
up online and see the health violations that they have.
yeah,
I went into, besides this other business that I visited, I went to a bubble tea place in the same
mm,
vicinity, and that bathroom was so dirty, I was afraid to take those drinks.
gee,
Yeah. There was paper all over the floor. The toilet wasn't clean. The sink was nasty. Low on toilet paper. I don't even think there was hand soap in the dispenser. It was really bad. And that
yeah,
shouldn't be a thing,
no,
you
it
know?
shouldn't be a thing. But you're right.
Yeah.
There's a saying, I don't know who made this up or who originated this, I don't know. But there's a saying out there that says, how you do something is how you do everything.
Everything.
And
Yeah.
if the bathroom is dirty, what else is not clean?
And that's why I use the bathroom as an example. If if
Hmm.
I go to your establishment and I use your restroom and it,
Hmm.
it is a disaster,
Hmm.
I know how you treat
Yeah,
your establishment.
right, right.
Hands down. There's no
Yeah,
excuse, right? If I go to your house, is your bathroom going to look like that? You know?
yeah. You
Yeah.
really don't want to find out.
Yeah. And part of the efficiencies with this is, I think if you look at a business as a whole, not just from the bathroom or the
Mm,
drink, you look
mhm.
at it as from the time you walk in to the time you leave, timing, right?
Yeah.
Were you greeted in time? Were you seated in time? Did you get
Mhm.
your drink in time?
Right.
How efficient is this business running? You know, if you're spending 35 minutes in a bubble tea place, that's probably 33 minutes too long. Something's not right. You need to look at your operating manuals and see, are we training properly? If I visit a restaurant and I'm there for 15 minutes,
Mhm.
you're turning tables fast, but am I having the time I should be having in your establishment? Are you treating me fairly, right? So
Yeah.
these are so many efficiencies that we look for and what on my side of that
Mhm.
are pretty important, you
Yeah.
know?
No, it is. It is. But you also have to, again, from my perspective, you could look at a bathroom. You could look at how fast you're getting service. Is it the right food, the right timing, whatever. But it rolls up, or depending how you look at it, it rolls down. So
Huh?
if the staff that's treating and meeting the customers is not operating correctly, where did they learn to operate that way? Who's saying it's acceptable to operate that way? And it comes from the top. So,
And when you
you
can't
know,
and when you can't reach the business owner to give them this information, what
right,
does that tell you as well?
correct,
Right.
correct.
And that's what bothers me because I've really reached out to this owner several times now with no response at all.
Mm,
And it bothers me because you're
yeah,
telling me, from my standpoint, that you're giving me the inclination that you don't care
correct.
what I found. All you care about is money, money, money. I'm making money. I don't care about
Hmm.
that. Just keep
Yeah,
moving. And it
yeah.
happens, right? There's people out there that are like that.
You're
These
not
others
wrong.
may not be like that, but I don't know because I'm not getting any responses, you know?
Right.
So,
And sooner or later, that type of attitude, those types of actions almost always come back and hurt you.
and that's what I want to avoid, right? That's what I do.
Yeah.
I want to avoid that coming back to haunt you
Hmm.
and bite you
Right.
mentality.
Right. Right. Yeah. I mean, I get we live in a crazy world. Things are rush, rush, rush. I get all that stuff. But what if you just took a small step backwards? Just, it is a challenge to be in a situation and then step back and look down or sideways, whatever, but look from the
Yeah,
outside in to
yeah,
see what's really going on. And
yeah.
if you
So,
can't do that, how do you know? How do you know what's wrong to fix
yeah,
it?
yeah. So when I had my mystery shopping company back in the day, my tagline was measure your business through your customer. That's
Hmm.
huge, right? Because
Yeah.
you're measuring your business through the eyes of a customer.
Right.
And when I go in and I send somebody in, we are giving you that third eye look,
Hmm. Hmm.
that third person view of
Right.
what's happening because it's not your employees. It's not somebody just screaming out on Google or Yelp or Facebook, whatever you want to say about your business.
Hmm.
This is a
Hmm.
real professional audit, a review
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
what's happening in your business. And that's what I'm trying to portray. And,
Hmm.
if any business owner is watching this and listening to what we're saying, you know, take your head out of the sand and give us a chance
Hmm.
to look at your business to show you what could be happening either way, right? Maybe you have some stars in your business that you should be rewarding. Maybe you have some things that might need to be, changed or edited or,
Right.
something to work on a little bit like, cleanliness or, the biggest health concern
Yeah.
that I've found,
Yeah.
some things like that. But give us a chance to help fix those things. We're not here to bash you. We're here to help, you
Right.
know?
There's a couple of ways to look at that. And I'm just going to elaborate from my perspective on what you just said. When you're in the business, again, it's hard to step out and look at it. So if you have somebody like Charles come in with the Q.A.C team and do the audit and look and report what's really happening, you can, if things are pretty good, it takes just a little tweak and you're doing well. If
Yeah,
the things are starting to get a little bit, the faster you course correct, the easier it is, and the faster you're now better in the public's eye because the public spends money.
yep,
Worst case, you have big issues, you don't fix them, and sooner than later, you might just find yourself being out of business. So
yeah,
it makes sense to have Chuck and his team come in.
yeah.
It's a fairly quick process. It's not expensive, but if you think about the cost and the time versus the end result of maybe losing business, maybe shutting down,
The health
isn't it
department
worth
shows up.
right?
Yeah,
Isn't it worth that
yeah,
little bit up front?
yeah, yeah,
That's so that's my thing. I think what you
yeah,
do is great and very much needed.
yeah. Thanks. And then vice versa, with you,
Mhm.
you know, it's very beneficial to have, somebody reach out to you or you reach out to your clients, maybe quarterly, 6 months, to
Yeah.
keep in touch, to say, hey, are there any changes to your policy? Are there anything that changes in your family? To keep up on that because Steve can probably save you money or make you more money depending upon which way you go with it, right?
Yep.
You know?
Because well, there's two versions of that. One is we don't sit down. And if we don't sit down and you don't have the plan that you're acting on down the road, you will get the government's plan, which trust me, you don't want to have because that's Medicare, that's Medicaid, and you don't want to be there.
Yeah.
The other option is you do work with a licensed professional, and I stress licensed professional, then at least you have a fighting chance and
Yeah.
have that
Key.
6 month, 12-month meeting. Are you on
Yeah.
track or you're not? If you're not, make course corrections.
Yeah. Keyword licensed.
Absolutely.
Emphasize.
I
Yeah.
because there's a lot of people who say, I'm going to go talk to my next door neighbor, Joe, my Aunt Mary, and they may have some knowledge,
Yeah.
but they don't understand it all. They don't understand the laws. They're not licensed. So legally, they can't even tell you what to do. They're not allowed legally to
They're
give
not
you
allowed
advice.
legally, right? Yeah.
And what happens if they give you advice and it goes south?
Yeah.
You have zero recourse against Mary or
Yep.
Joe because they're not licensed. They have
Yep.
no vested interest in doing the right thing.
Right. And like in your case, with the story you were talking about, it's a licensed agent that you can do something against if something is
Correct.
wrong, because now you can get the
Correct.
charge back, you can
Yep.
get your money back, you cancel the policy. You have a lot of different things that you can do in
Yep.
your at your dispersal.
So,
Yeah.
so just like doctors have malpractice insurance and CPAs have, and I forget what it's called, but they have their version of insurance. We have E&O, which is called errors and omissions.
Yeah.
So if we do something wrong and somebody files a complaint against us, they do a full investigation. And if it
Yeah.
turns out that we're at fault, that company that has our E&O policy pays the fee. And then we're on probation, which we should be because something we did was not right. Nobody,
Yeah.
I'm not saying everybody's 100% perfect, but if you're not sure of something, ask before you have a client sign a documentation.
Yeah.
It just saves a lot of hassle and time and money later.
Yeah. And I think that's what I liked about this episode today, where our conversation, talking about these audits and these hidden things that, just some people might not think about, that, and we're talking from the business side, but also think about from the customer side, you might not think about when you walk into a business, you have no clue how they're running their business. You don't know how efficient they are or how not efficient they are.
Yeah.
You don't know what to look for or what to audit, but you should have the best time of your life if you visit a restaurant, bowling alley, whether it be
Yep.
a bar, a brewery, it
Yep.
doesn't matter. Even if you visited a life insurance agent's office and you sat down, it should
Yeah.
be primo visit to where you have a
It should.
five-star
It should.
visit
You're you're
experience.
you're investing your time, your money, your trust
Yeah,
in whatever business you're going into. It doesn't matter what it is.
yeah,
And if they're not doing the best on their end, you could lose money, you could get sick or worse.
yeah,
To me, it's incumbent on a business. And I get times are tough and people want to, squeeze the dollar and get more profit out of it and stuff. And I understand that. But you're dealing with people's lives, people's
yeah,
futures. Do the right
yeah,
thing. Do the right
yeah,
thing.
yeah. These audits are important, from your side
Yeah.
and from my side.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
just makes sense,
Absolutely.
in both of
It
these
does.
I think it's a great topic today because it just makes sense, that on your side, have ethics, do the right thing,
Hmm.
audit those policies, help the people understand them better. If there are any changes, what can you do to change it? Maybe something
Yeah.
changes, 6 months or a year from now to make that
Right.
policy better, you know?
Yeah.
And on my
Yeah.
side, you know, business is not always running 100%. It could be 90%, it could be 40%.
Yeah.
But if you're doing the right thing and you have these efficiencies in place where your processes are good,
Mm,
you should be able to get through those days.
correct.
Do the right thing.
Do the right thing all the
Yeah.
time.
Yep. You got it. What a great episode.
Yeah, I got into this. It's pretty good stuff. It's
Yeah.
again, this is all about sharing information to help people receive the right treatment, whatever that means.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
because a lot of people don't know. I don't know what you know going into the restaurant business. You may
Yeah.
not know what I do going into the insurance and the financial field. I may not know what it takes to do whatever else. But the trust has to be there that you're going to get the best service for the best value and be okay.
And I want to touch on that. That's important. A lot of us are Google experts now, right? We Google everything. We think you know it all. Oh, I watched a video on Google. I got this. But what people don't realize is that when you have people like us who
Mm,
are professionals and we've done this for a while, we
right.
know it inside and out. Trust us.
Yep.
Do it for you. So there are no mistakes. You don't need your errors and omissions. You don't need to have these problems with your audits. So you
Correct.
communicate with me. You won't have to worry about the health department coming and shutting you down. You don't have to worry about, the licensing agency taking your license away because you
Mhm.
failed to properly, fill out an application for someone's life insurance policy where you wanted all the money, but yet they couldn't afford it. It's so shady.
Yep.
So shady.
So I
You know.
heard something a while back. Most, and I don't know again, I don't know if this is true, but supposedly most bad reviews for businesses like restaurants are from competitors
Hmm.
because they
That's
want to
interesting.
get people away from your restaurant to come to mine. So if I put bad reviews about you, they're not going to go to you, they're going to come to me. Now, again, I don't know if that's true, but I'm sure there's some truth to it. So you can't necessarily go 100% for what's posted at a review. You need somebody like Chuck to go in and say, yeah, this is what's really going on. Because
Yeah.
Chuck has no vested interest.
Yeah. And if you go to QACteam.com and click on reviews, you can read them. They're all
Yeah,
true. They're all honest. They're not
yeah.
made up. I give you 100% what
Hmm.
happened in every visit that anybody has made for me or the ones that I've done. They are 100% true. It is the
Yeah,
absolute truth of what happened. And that's the way it should be.
yeah,
And that's why
agreed.
I help businesses combat Google, Yelp, and Facebook
Mm,
because
hmm.
it's a lot of noise out there.
Yeah,
And, I talked to a business owner this afternoon, and when I sort of brought it up, she rolled her eyes like, uh-huh, tell me about it. I know what you're talking about
yep,
because it's real,
yeah,
and that's
yeah,
why I do what I do
right.
because I want to help businesses succeed
Hmm.
by killing that noise, man, and just put the
Yeah,
truth out there, even if it isn't accurate.
yeah,
I mean, not
yep,
perfect. I mean, things happen.
yep,
I mean, I
yep.
shouldn't have said the word accurate. I meant to say, perfect.
Mm,
If you're not perfect, it's okay. We're talking about how we're going to fix it, how we're going to get around that problem. You know.
correct, correct.
So yeah.
All right,
So
we're almost done. So
yeah, we're coming to the end here. It's a
yeah,
pretty good
yeah,
episode, Steve. I enjoy this, man. It's a really good
yeah,
topic. You
yeah,
know.
yeah. I had a lot of fun with this.
Yeah,
Again,
absolutely, man.
sharing some good
Yeah.
info.
Yeah, so real quick, if anybody wants to reach out to us, come on and
Hmm.
talk with us, join us in a conversation,
Yeah,
reach out, QACteam.com, or my number is on the screen there. Steve's
right.
number is there. If you want to reach out to us, reach out to Steve
Yep,
Kent at Steve Kent Financial Services. And we're more than willing to talk and help you guys out.
yep. Perfect. Sounds good.
Yeah, all right. Well, we're going to finish up here in this Friday at 4 podcast series.
Because it's 4 o'clock somewhere.
4 o'clock somewhere. I love it. Hey, we
Like
got
it.
that one. We got that twice in
I'm
this
getting there.
episode. Love it, man. Steve, again, man, what a great episode. Thanks for
Yep.
coming on. I'm glad
Yep.
we're continuing to do this. I love this episode. I love this
Yeah.
series.
Mhm.
Let's have a great rest of the day. Have a great evening, a great weekend,
You
and we'll
too.
chat soon.
You got it. Thanks, Chuck.
Take care,
Take care,
everybody.
everyone.
Take care, Steve.
Take care.
See you, man.
Bye-bye. Bye.
You've been watching the Friday at 4 podcast series with your host Charles Luttrell and co-host Steve Kent. Thanks for watching.